basic JavaScript, and what are the tags, what are the IDs which you will be using. So everything is like combined here. So understanding the complete picture will help you to sometimes grab the data from the page. So that is one way to collect the data. Like web scraping is one of the ways to collect data using web analytics tool. The other way, basically, these days, like modern days of data collection, is basically moving to our data layer. Um, I'm not sure if everybody has any understanding of data layer. So if you, Ashish, can you just post one small? I do not have any reference of data layer, but you can feel free to paste the link of data layer if you can, Ashish.
Yeah, I will paste a sample also in the chat.
Sure, thanks. So data layer is nothing but a JavaScript object on the page. And using that data layer, you are going to get the value in your web analytics tool. We will look at that also in today's example. But most of the part, like, when you will be joining any client, or when you will be joining any company to work to collect the data as a web analytics developer, you will certainly go through this approach of web scraping. So you need to have like this kind of understanding of HTML, JavaScript, and jQuery. And you need not to be a master of JavaScript. You should be using very limited set of functions of JavaScript, and you should be knowing how to use those functions. Similarly, um, you should be knowing the commonly used jQuery functions. So I have listed these functions in our link page in the document. So whenever you will receive this presentation, you can go through those commonly used JavaScript functions and jQuery functions. jQuery functions such as append, such as dot click, dot mouse over. All those are very commonly used functions in jQuery and JavaScript. How to get the class name of the div, how to get the ID of the div, and how to extract the button name, and how to navigate in the DOM structures. That basically you will learn in HTML, CSS, and basic Java. So for that also, I have a sample article for you. So in my presentation, there is a appendix document where I have put together a link, which gives an idea about how you can extract those information easily. So keep those things in your fingertip. That will really help you in future, because when you learn these things, you will not face day-to-day delay. Because when we don't know things, we start Googling things, and then it start delaying your own work. So keep those frequently used methods and the functions on your fingertips, so that you don't spend too much time on Google. So that's one thought. And let's talk about a little bit on the DOM elements and other things. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me share my screen again. So I'm going to navigate to a site where web analytics has been already implemented. And we have both Google and Adobe Analytics both. So we will take a look like how it looks like. I mean, how basically you confirm that a website has a web analytics implemented. So the first thing, when you go to a website, if you're not familiar with the developer console, read about it on Google, and you should be seeing different tabs over here. Console tabs is primarily for JavaScript console, where you can run your JavaScript code and you can see all the logs. And networks tabs gives you all the calls which generates from the browser and goes to the server. So basically, to look at the Adobe Analytics call, we filter the networks tags by B/SS. It's a very common identifier, like how we identify the Adobe Analytics tags. So when I reload this page, it will see, let's see if there is Adobe Analytics call or not on the page. So yeah, page gets loaded, and I see there network call has happened when we filter through by b/ss. So let's see what it is. So this is the Adobe Analytics call. Means Adobe Analytics is existing on the page and Adobe Analytics is capturing data from the site. So as an analytics developer, you should be looking at query string parameters. Query string parameters would be available in all the GET request. And in the POST request, these query string parameters will not be available. So you need to copy the complete POST request and you need to parse that POST request to see all the key value pairs in the POST request. But in GET request, you will be able to see everything here under query string parameters under this section. So as you see, there are a bunch of information which are being captured. If you don't know anything, just look at this page name are being captured. Some random events are being captured. I don't know what CD, VD, English, and a lot of things are being captured. So as you see, I mean, even if I don't know anything, I can say that, oh, something is being captured here. Fair enough. So let's look at the Google Analytics. See how Google Analytics is capturing data. So when you search the networks tab by Google, you will see a bunch of things that are happening here. So when you search by Google, you will see a lot of things. Like it could be the Google JavaScript script. It could be like Google conversion pixel, which is also one of the marketing aspect, which we will talk about in future. So as you see, there are a bunch of GIF images here at the bottom. So these are the Google requests, which basically collects data and send data to Google. So let's see what these are. So as we see, a bunch of informations are basically being sent to Adobe, to Google. As we see, data is equal to event, some page like title name is going, some URL is being captured. So I think we in layman term, we can say that something is being captured in Google as well as we see some data. And we don't know where data is going. So now this confirms that Google Analytics is there on the page, Adobe Analytics is there on the page. So that's confirmed. Now let's move on to something else. Remember I was talking about DOM. So as you see under the Elements tab, you will see this is the DOM structure of the page. So the hierarchy, as you see under the body, all these are the different hierarchy which gets created. These are different hierarchy which gets created. Div, script, the different hierarchy here. Footer has different hierarchy. Every tags has its own hierarchy, as you see. Under section, there are multiple divs. Okay, and every div you would see can be identified through ID, class. A link can be href. A link can be also under a div. So as you see here, this is anchor tag which has a reference, it has an ID2, and it has a class 2 and other things. So these are the elements, and we look at these elements to scrap anything. So for example, if we would like to grab the href from this anchor tag, how would we do that? Maybe we would like to know the text on this div. So how would we do that? So basically, we will use the JavaScript and jQuery approach. If it is a static page, then you can simply use JavaScript, where you can use document.getElement by ID or getElement by class. So for example, if I take this and if I go to console, as you see, get element by ID, it gives me the ID, the tag, and suppose what we would like to know the text. Is any text? So yeah, so this is the text on that div. So for example, if this page is static, this page is not very dynamic, I would basically use this simple JavaScript code to get the inner text for that particular div. So I think it's about somewhere approval or something like that. Okay, anyways. Well, so if the pages are dynamic, if the pages are more dynamic, in that case, I recommend to use jQuery. jQuery is really good when you are trying to extract anything on a runtime. Um, so if you have a page which is dynamic in nature, which changes very quickly, I would recommend to use jQuery in that case. And in case of static page, feel free to use JavaScript approach like this. In jQuery, you will be using different command, the command and syntax will be a little bit different. You will be using methods like something like this, you will use in jQuery, and then you will use dot click to basically get the value of if somebody has clicked that particular tags. So you will apply dot click. If you would like to just extract anything, you can extract through this also. So this is the simple approach of how do you use the standard JavaScript and jQuery to get the value from the page. Now, I was talking about data layer. So I'm not going to dig into a lot. So let's see if it has a data layer or not. Okay. So data layer is nothing but a JavaScript object which is available on the page. And it is basically being set from the development team side on the page. It can be set on the runtime, and it can be set on the static way also, both way. And it gives you information to pass into your system, like web analytics system. So as you see here, there are different indexes. Data layer is nothing but an array object, and it gives you all the different indexes, and each index has its own value here. So, and you basically access these data layer indexes in our web analytics tool like this. You know, you can access anything like that. Suppose you would like to access, uh, so this is your uh, data layer at index 5. So suppose you want to access data layer at index 25, you can just enter this. And you would like to enter the event ID, so you just put the event name. So this is how you are going to access the value in your web analytics tool, for example, Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics. So that's very simple. You know, now let me give you an example, like where these things, don't get confused about these things, because these things are very simple. Data layer is a little bit confusing for many people, but but when you are working on a tag management solution, for example, Adobe Experience Platform Launch, and then Google Tag Manager, you can easily use data layer to extract the value. You don't need to do a lot of data scraping. But most of the cases, it's very common in the web analytics world that you will be end up doing at least 20 to 30% of data scraping work, even though you have the data layer on the page. You know, so any web analytics implementation or data collection approach will have sort of mix of both web scraping and data layer implementation. Pure data layer implementation is somewhat not 100% possible, um, because of the complexity nature, and sometimes data layer is not easy to implement from the development team side also. So they also will push you back to implement it by yourself, rather than you push them to implement the data layer, like to implement the JavaScript object from their side. So bear that in mind when you work. It's not hard and fast rule that you have to use either data layer or you have to use the CSS approach, like the web scraping approach. It can be mixed, and and it is not bad. It's not a bad solution to have a mix of solution. But as I said, you try to reduce the dependency of web scraping as much as you can. You should make sure that you capture the important data through data layer. But whenever it is required to basically, suppose you have to launch a new campaign, and development team are not able to add a add a JavaScript object in the data layer. In that case, it's good that you can You can use the web scraping approach, and you can do the web analytics tracking rather than waiting for developer to complete the data collection. So it's you need to be flexible sometimes when you work in the professional environment. Any questions so far? All right, no questions. Okay, so let me proceed. Great. So yeah, so as I said, data collection on web versus mobile versus OTT. So when you work in the web analytics data collection approach, you will not have to collect data only from the web. You have to collect data from the mobile. You have to collect data from the OTT devices as well. So you need to come up with a different strategy to track data from web versus mobile versus OTT, because all these three devices basically are coded in a different way, and basically usually handled by different developers. So you need to devise a different strategy for these three platforms. So web basically um, can support cookie. Mobile app, usually they do not support cookie. Similarly, OTT also do not support cookie. So yeah, and we all know that most of the web analytics products, they work on the cookie, right? So you need to be meaning, like, you have to be sure what you are going to capture through cookie, what you're not going to capture through cookie when you are creating a strategy to collect data from these three platforms. So, so for example, when we talk about e-commerce site, like I was talking about Wegmans a few minutes ago, you can you can think of easily what you need to capture on the website. Like the foremost important thing you need to capture here is how many orders are being placed, which product is being viewed, what people are searching on the website, and what is the flow of the product of the purchase. Like if I'm going to product page, how many people are adding to the cart, and then proceeding to the review cart, and then proceeding toward the payment page, and then review page, and then placing an order 100%. So you need to understand the whole flow of the purchase on such e-commerce sites. So these are the very basic requirement. And some of the products like Adobe Analytics and Google Analytics, they give you inbuilt functionality to track these things, but you need to write some code on the website to get these enabled. So for example, to track the add to cart, you will be using transaction variables from Google, and similarly you will be using transaction variables on Adobe as well. Both provides the transaction variables to capture the transactions on e-commerce sites. And it's up to you how you implement it. There are so many documents and the Google videos and Adobe videos to understand how to track these things. So I'm not getting into the strategy and the process of how we track those things. Feel free to come back to us if you face any challenge. Now, mobile is basically gaining a lot of momentum in terms of data collection. Uh, Facebook is having more revenue on the mobile ads than the web revenue. Similarly, the apps like Twitter, Snapchat is like they are getting most of the revenue from the mobile advertisement. So you can imagine if they do not capture the user interactions on the Snapchat app, they cannot show their advertisers like how can they make money, how can they make their business running, so it's really important to track the mobile data on these softwares. Similarly, every business has to track the user interactions on the mobile. The use of mobile app has increased a lot these days. Companies like let's take an example of Facebook. Facebook is tracking every click, how many deep you are scrolling on the page, which ads you are clicking, which sections you are going once in a day, like how many times you are launching the app in a day, how many minutes you are spending on Facebook every day, which picture you are viewing, how many profiles you are basically viewing every day, how many news article you are reading every day. So Facebook is tracking everything. So similarly, products like Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics, it's a very robust enterprise software, web analytics tool. using which you can track everything. Facebook is using different analytics. Um, but if you look for app like Walmart, they have a e-commerce app. If you look for Wegmans, they also have mobile app. All these are using Google Analytics and Adobe Analytics both. So they are using these enterprise software to track each and every interactions of the users on the app. So apart from these two products, there are other products in the market too. I'm just giving few examples. There are multiple products. App Flyer is really common, and Mixed Panel is also really common in tracking web and mobile OTT. You know. So moving ahead, so we talked about data collection. And now let's talk about data analysis. So as I said, analytics is basically consists of multiple activities, and data analysis and data collections are part of it. So, so after data collection, what you would do? You would do data analysis, right? And you need tool to discuss, and then you need to tool. You need to have these tools which can give you a quick analysis about data what you have collected. So I think I gave quick overview about these tools, especially the top two. So learn about Google Analytics dashboard, how to create dashboards in Google Analytics, how to create segments, and how to run the reports, all those things. So please take a look at these things. There are several videos from Google, several videos from Adobe Analytics on these two topics. Similarly, there are external tools also available for you to do the data analysis. You can use MX Excel. You can download the data from the Google Analytics and you can bring into MS Excel and you can do the analysis. Similarly, you can export the file in Tableau to create a dashboard. You can use Power BI. You can use Domo. You can use MicroStrategy. These are different BI tools available for do a lot of data analysis of the web data. And Domo and MicroStrategy are not limited to the web data. You can bring in other enterprise data also to do complete holistic understanding of the users. So let me move on to the next. So let's talk about data analytics. So as I mentioning earlier, this session is going to be more moving toward data analytics and data analysis going forward. So we are now moving toward data analysis. Okay. So data analytics is basically, I would say it's a kind of a discipline which includes everything related to data, not just data analysis. So data analysis is just part of data analytics. So like data collection, cleaning, organizing, and storing the data, governing the data, and of course, analyzing the data. So don't get confused. Sometimes people get confused data analytics and data analysis. So data analysis is, I would say, sub part of data analytics. So what is web analytics and what is data analytics? How they're related and different. So web analytics comes under part of data analytics, basically, because data analytics is nothing but playing around with the data. And what you do in web analytics, you collect data from the web. Okay, so right now we are not only collecting data from the web, we are collecting data from different sources. For example, data from the phone, like the customer care, data from the field, like when somebody goes to the ground and do the promotion, that data is also there on the paper, and somebody has to type those data from paper to the database, right? So that data is also there, but that data is not being collected from the web. It's being collected from the field, by someone from sales or marketing team. So web analytics is one of the part of data analytics, and then we right now we are into the world where most of the things are happening on the web. So that's why it's important to understand how basically we look at the data from the web, and that's where web analytics is so important these days for every companies. They cannot survive without web analytics. So scope is abundance because the field is growing. Every company is now trying to make sure that they are looking at the data from the web, and then they're making a decision. Then only they are spending money in the advertisement, because every money in an advertisement makes sense. Like if you do not spend money on a meaningful user, you are losing money every day. So which user to be targeted? for your advertisements is really important for a marketing team, so that they don't want to spend their money for the users who doesn't want that product. So that is important to understand who your customer is and how they can basically lure the customer to buy their products. So does it make sense? Any questions here? Any questions, Ashish? On the
Uh,
chat, do you see?
no, I have already addressed all of them, so
Awesome.
no
Thank you.
stand.
Thanks so much, Ashish. So now let's talk about some of the steps involved in data analysis. So going forward, we are jumping in data analysis, and will always in data analysis going forward in our session. So let's talk about what are the steps involved in data analysis. So what are the important steps for everybody to understand is that we don't just bring the data and start crunching the numbers. That's not the process here. The process here is, the first steps to this process is to understand the goal, like what we want to achieve, and and like what we will do with the data. So to decide what is the objective of the analysis. So for example, if I am trying to do some analysis and I would like to understand which marketing campaign or is going to work for me, then we have to do the separate analysis. So every analysis has its own path depending on your goal, which goal you are going forward to. Then you have to take turns as per your goal. So there is no single path for data analysis. You can twist your path as per your goal. Let's take an example of a mobile app. On mobile app, especially Facebook would like to have like the users to keep scrolling, keep looking at the Facebook screen, so that they can tell the advertiser that, hey, these many people are spending 2 hours per day on Facebook. So, and the average view of advertisements is this. So that's how. So Facebook goal would be to analyze how many users are spending how many hours or how many minutes on the app per day, or maybe per hour, or maybe daytime. What is a peak hour for viewing the advertisement, so that they can throttle the advertisement during that time. So those are the goals of Facebook might be for data analysis. So every company has its own goal. YouTube has its own goal for data analysis. So first, understand the goal for data analysis, which is really important for a manager. If a manager is just giving you a 5 GB of data and asking you to, hey, come up with some analysis, that's now you're not going to work in professional world. In professional world, you have to be goal driven. You cannot be without goal driven. You need to create first goals, and then you will work toward achieving that goal. So set the goal first, data analysis, and then you do the data import. You would like to understand from where you should be getting the data. That's the important steps, because getting the data is a huge challenge in when you're going to work. And then are you getting data from the web? Are you getting data from the field? Are you getting data from the CRM department? Are you getting data from the finance department? So getting the data is also important. Try to get as much data as possible, because having a meaningful data makes sense. If you do not have data from different sources, suppose you are doing 5 marketing campaign in 5 different channels, and you don't have data for 2 to 3 channels. So analyzing those data will have certain limitations, and then only you will be spending money on those marketing campaigns. So get the data as much as you can from different reliable sources if you are trying to do the data analysis. And data import. Data import is a step where you try to get the data in your system when you're setting yourself up for the analysis. So you can import the data in a different way. You can import the data through writing some program on hourly basis, maybe by creating a connection between your database, maybe connection between different sources. Maybe you are importing the data through FTP import. So there are different ways to import the data, and you will make sure that the connection always remain established, um, and the connection does not break when you basically run your data import job. And then after you have the data, you have to clean the data. Don't expect that every data will be clean and beautiful and it's ready to go for analysis. So you have to clean the data in a way that you have a meaningful data, I would say. For example, if you see that there are some columns which are not needed, just remove the column. If you're seeing that if you're seeing a lot of like blank columns, blank rows, you have to make sure that you remove those data which is not required. In some cases, we basically what do you say that sometimes we have doubt on data. So when we have doubt on data, we have to go and validate, especially in web analytics. When we look at data cleaning work, we will see whether a certain variables are being set or not. And when you will see that certain variables are not being set on a certain columns or certain rows, then you will basically highlight that issue to the developer. And that is also your job in data cleaning process. When you have the clean data, you will start working on the data exploration. And then in the next step, you will start working on the modeling. You will create the models if it is required. If your end objective is to come up with some sort of quantitative decisions or qualitative decisions, you may stop yourself until data exploration. But the big companies are not stopping themselves to the data exploration. In the last 10 or 15 years, companies are moving ahead data exploration. They are moving into modeling. They are moving into after modeling, they are basically trying to use the model on a real-time basis so that they can have a better decisions in a real time. So those are the important things, and those are the important steps usually you will have to do in data analysis. Any questions here?
Yeah, I will quickly chime in here. Let's give Abhishek a 30 seconds break to have a glass of water. So guys, what's happening is we are now moving from data collection to data analysis. We started with data collection where we saw web analytics tools, which companies use to collect the data. So now using web analytics tools, we are collecting data. That data is collected. Now let's see what happens with that collected data. So now we are moving from data collection to data analysis. Over to you, Abhishek, again.
Sure, Ashish. Give me 1 second. Thanks. So let me share my screen again. Can you guys see my screen? Ashish?
Not yet.
Oh,
Yeah, we can see it now.
all right. So for data analysis, you have many tools available in the market. You can choose whatever you would like to. Some of the free tools available is like some of the tools available are like RStudio, which uses R language programming, Jupyter Notebook, which uses multiple language. You can use R, you can use Python. Then you have Google Cloud Platform. One of the tool here is Google BigQuery, which I have showcased last week. If anybody would like to use BigQuery and anything, please reach out to me, and I'll give you some useful links and the tips over there. And also, when you are having a like when you have not used Google platform, you will get $300 Google credit for the first year, so that you can use that credit to learn these Google products without any cost. Similarly, Amazon Web Services gives you ability to run your data analysis on a very large scale. Excuse me. And Amazon Web Service also gives you ability to run your programs, run your machines on cloud for free for 1 year. So feel free to use these free tools available for data analysis. Again, Power BI is also free for I think a month or 2 weeks. Tableau is free for students. If you are a student, then feel free to download using your student email ID. Adobe Analytics Workspace is definitely not free, but you can look at the videos which is available on YouTube channel. SAS, Domo, IBM Cognos, these are not at all free. So you can look at the videos. How many people have experience with any of these data analytics tools? Can you just guys ping yes or no on the chat?
Or if
I,
any other tool that you
I
have
will just
used.
take 1 or 2 minutes. Please feel free to drop in yes or no. Okay, great. Great. Thanks, Neha. What about the others? They don't have. Okay, none of them. Thanks, Musharraf, for telling. Okay, great. Great, Saros. Okay, so I think few people have understanding of these tools, but yeah, most of the people are still trying to learn this tool. Okay, okay, great. Thanks, Ryan, for letting us know. All right, great. All right, great, guys. So what we will do today? Today we'll have some time to spend on Jupyter Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook is very popular among data analysts and data scientists. It is being used to do the analysis on Hadoop. It is used to do the analysis on Apache Spark. All those heavy data analysis can be done on Jupyter Notebook. So it's very popular editor for data analysis. Similarly, RStudio is also really popular in data analysis. So if you choose any of the programming language, you can either choose Python, you can either choose R. Both are easy to learn. From my personal experience, I have felt that Python is very easy to learn and very easy to use. You will have abundance of resources. It's open source programming language, and similarly, R is also open source. That's why you will see a lot of resources out there on YouTube, out there on Udemy, Udacity, and so many places. So choose any language if you would like to, because I believe that the future will be more aligned toward data analytics. Someday we'll have some automation which will basically collect the data from the web, maybe some AI tool, some automation tool, but it's really hard to automate the data analysis. It's not it's not very you cannot automate. It's very difficult because data cleaning work definitely need manual intervention. Data validation definitely needs manual intervention. So in future, I would say that data analysis is going to be in huge demand in the next 10 years. So focus on data analytics if you are trying to learn one or two new skills in the next few years. So let me jump on this. I hope you guys have Jupyter Notebook. We sent a notification like email to everybody that if you have if you can install Jupyter Notebook, then that's great. We will take a look on Jupyter Notebook interface. It's very simple to use. I am not lying to you guys. So for the next 10, like 7, 8 minutes, I'm going to talk about Jupyter Notebook UI. We'll bring some data and we'll do some analysis. Okay, and we'll open the floor for the question. Okay, so let me share my screen again. Let me go to my Jupyter Notebook. Okay. All right. So okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So one of the easiest way to have the Jupyter Notebook is to install the Anaconda. As soon as you install the Anaconda, you will have all these softwares available for you. A Spider is a editor for Python programming, Jupyter Lab, Jupyter Notebook here, RStudio here. So you can install whatever you would like to. I have installed most of the products here. So I'm going to use Jupyter Notebook here. So when you click on launch here on the Anaconda navigator screen, you will land on this page. On this page, you will see the running, whatever running programs here, and you'll see the clusters if I have any existing clusters running. So I will see all over here. So now let's create a new file. So when you click here, you will have option to create different notebook, R notebook or Python 3 notebook. I will create a Python notebook. Okay. So let me close that and I'll create a new Python notebook. So let's just give a quick name here. Okay, I'll give the name. So this is a very simple interface. You will see kernel is running here. It's idle right now, but we can invoke it by running a simple command. You will have different navigation, will not work on navigation. So here you will see a few things like code, markdown. We'll talk about this. The first thing we should be doing is we should be importing a data, right? That's the first thing on our Jupyter notebook. So how we will do that? We will import some library first. So basically Python has some inbuilt library. We'll use that. So one of the important libraries pandas. And then there are other one is NumPy. So Panda is used for a lot of, it basically makes your life easy. So you can write a program to import the data from your computer, from the cloud or wherever. But basically this makes your life easy because it's really easy to access the inbuilt function inside the library and basically run your program. So I'm importing these two libraries, pandas and NumPy, and I'll hit this button, run. So there are several shortcuts. You can run the shortcuts. There's the keyword shortcuts I'm talking about. You can use those keyword shortcuts to run these programs. And then let's try to import the data, WHO data, which Ashish has shared the link. So let's give the name COVID-19. That's the variable we are creating. Like we are trying to create a data frame from our CSV file. So we will be use. So when we write this statement that this is the library and we are going to access the library as a PD object. So PDs are going to our object. So PD dot, we're going to read a CSV file. So read underscore CSV. And our name of the file is WHO COVID, let me say COVID-19.csv. So when we are going to run this, we will see that it gets executed very easily. And let's see what is COVID-19. So let's just type in here, Control C, and run this command, see what happens. So you will see all the data over here.
So Abhishek, quick question: is this COVID-19 CSV already downloaded on your machine?
Yeah, so this is, yeah, you right now I have downloaded this CSV file on my machine, the same folder in which my Python is basically running. So for example, if you are if you would like to know, so I have installed the COVID-19 in my home directory where all of my Python is accessible. This is a home directory of mine. So either you basically access the file by the absolute path or the relative path. It's up to you how you're going to access. You can give your complete path here. On if you're in Windows, you can give your Mac path. So if I'm on MacBook, I'll give something like this, and it will work. It will work fine, just fine. See, so you can give the absolute path also wherever you like to. Nothing wrong in that. Make sense? So that's quick. As you see, when I hit the data, so usually we call this a data frame. It's sort of a data set, but data frame is really common word in here in data analysis, so we'll call it a data frame. There is a different way to create data frame also. By default, when you get the CSV, it will be basically imported in data set, and we can call it as a data frame. We'll get into data frame, how to create data frame in pandas or using pandas in Python in later stage, but we'll not do it together. So after this will tell you how many rows and how many columns are there in this one. So some of the basic commands I'm going to run today. So for example, if you want to describe some basic information about the data set, so you can say that this is the data set from WHO on COVID-19. And I have changed this block from code to markdown. So markdown is basically used to add any comment in your data analysis. So when you add this markdown, you can run this. And this markdown can have, or you can use all the HTML tags here in this markdown. So suppose you want to make this bold, you can make this bold. See, suppose you would like to add something else, but in a new line, you can say, give me a line break. So you can use all your HTML tags here in the markdown cell. So because it becomes really easy when you do the analysis, you want to write something about what you're doing and what is the process involved. So for example, you basically imported this data set, and then you will write about some quick observation about the data set. It's very common in data analysis. So let's run some of the function here. So we can access data frame from this object, and we will run some functions. We'll try to run uh, like we want to know what are the data types actually. So let's try to understand what are the different columns. So we'll use, there are different functions which I am going to put in the appendix so that you can use these functions to understand what these functions mean and how you basically use. So these are the very commonly used functions when you start data analysis. So .info is common function which you will use to understand the data type. As you see, there are data types like int, float, object, right? So when you are going to do the mathematic computations, you would definitely get to know, like you definitely need such type of informations. As like, you cannot you can, especially when you're doing the modeling, you need to understand what is the data type. Because when you are working on the models, you need to know the data type of the dependent variable, data type of your final variable, output variable. So all those things are really important. Similarly, now we would like to understand some of the basic informations. So let's try to filter the data for only India. So how would we do that? So COVID-19 / India. Okay. So one of the important thing while you filter data, it goes like this. Data frame, you can access any column of the data frame by giving this this bracket, and then you can have a two like single quote, and then you write the name of the column. That's the easiest way you can access the data column. Okay. But while you are filtering something, you can try, you will write the data frame name here. Under this, you will write the data frame like this. So name should be India, right? So let's run this command, see what happens. So as we see, this is the data for India. So suppose we would like to filter out data from certain analysis, we have to use filtering. We cannot work without filtering because this data is very small. This data is, I don't think so it's more than 5 or 10 MBs. But when you deal with the data like in GBs, you need to filter down your data. in different parts, and then you will start analyzing it. So this is one of the key steps you need in your data analysis. Understand your columns, understand your like how you're going to filter the data, and then you're going to basically look at the different information. So suppose you have a huge chunk of data and you would like to understand like the first 5 column of the data. So in that case, there are simple inbuilt command, I would say, or method, I would say, available. So like, for example, head, which will give you by default 5 rows. And if you say something like head 10, should give you the first 10 rows. So these are the very common methods you will be using at the beginning of the analysis. And, uh, and then maybe we are running out of time. In the next session, we'll be diving into the statistics of the data, and we will be also diving into a little bit of data like exploration. Like we will be start creating some graphs to understand how the trends of the data looks like, how you basically create different graphs in Jupyter Notebook, and how you're going to understand those graphs, because creating graphs going to be super easy, but explaining those graphs is going to be challenging for you, for the business. Understanding the trend is really important. So so for now, I think I'm stopping myself, and I will open the floor for questions. I will share this Python file with everybody, so that you guys can have access to this file, and you can run the WHO data on your notebook, so that you understand these basic methods, because these are the very basic methods. These are very simple method. You shouldn't have any problem, and read more about it, what you can do, and come up with the questions in the next session.
Right,
Ashish?
so Abhishek, there is a question over the chat. So the question is, in your notebook, is COVID_19 a dictionary?
Okay, that's great. That's great. Let's take a look what it is. By the way, it's not dictionary. Just to let you know, but let's see. Oops. It's a data frame type. I think. Yeah, it's a data frame type. As you see, it's a data frame. It's not a dictionary. When you run the info, it will show you what it is. Okay. All right. Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, so Neha had another question. I'm interested for Google BigQuery. How do I connect for the same?
All right, sure. So whoever has interest in Google BigQuery, I mean, Ashish will send a email to everybody, like how you access those. And because BigQuery has a lot of sample data, you can use those sample data to understand how you are going to analyze those data. So Google BigQuery is nothing but a SQL cloud interface. You know, it's not a big challenge. But one of the things you should be doing with the Google BigQuery is importing data from different sources, and then you start analyzing those data. So I will send some useful resource to you, Neha, if that works. Yep. Thanks.
And we'll also share our Twitter handles. You can tweet to us and we will get back to you with the necessary information. Any other questions, guys, over chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the questions.
I'm around here, so feel free to ask any questions related to DOM, any questions which you have done in your past and but need some clarification.
Okay, I don't see much of the questions are coming in, but guys, we are always available over the email. If you guys want to run these scripts again, Abhishek is going to share this notebook with you. Plus, this recording will also be uploaded so that you can rerun through the video and try and redo all the stuff that Abhishek has done. Abhishek, a great session. Thank you for your time. So we have
Yeah.
started with data analysis. As we move into the third session, Abhishek will show you some more stuff that you can do in Jupyter Notebook using Python and the COVID-19 dataset. Abhishek, thank you for your time again. And everyone, we will connect next week, same time, Saturday, 11 a.m. CST. See you next week. Thank you for your time. Take care.
Yep. All the best. Thanks for joining in, guys, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.